The SWAC preseason polls have released, and just like the coaches, I believe it's the year of the Hornet. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, am Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day, every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. Just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Now, I understand that sports may not be sporting the way that you wanted them to at one point, but that's okay. That's okay, because FanDuel is hooking up all customers, new and old, with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, something for everyone every day, all summer long. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. Today's all about SWAC Media Day. That's what we're going to do segment 1. So we're going to do segment 2. That's what we're going to do segment 3. And then we're going to come back tomorrow, and we're going to be back with it again on segment 1 of Thursday's episode, because the SWAC Media Day did have a lot of big things that came out of it. We're going to wrap up today's show with what the state of Louisiana means to Mickey Joseph, because he let off a couple of different quotes that kind of really put in perspective of what the job and the state means to the Grambling State head coach. Prior to that, the SWAC Tournament has a new home. You will see SWAC men's and women's basketball in their season in Atlanta, just like the football season does. But we kick it off with 2024, aka the year of the Hornet. I do not know what this year is as far as the Chinese New Year, whether it's the year of the dragon, the year of the rabbit, or whatever the other animals are. The year of the tiger. I think I'm a year of the tiger kid. But what I do know is that if we're not talking about the Chinese New Year and we're talking about SWAC football, I think it's the year of the Hornet. The SWAC coaches seem to think it's the year of the Hornet. When you're looking at who Alabama State is stepping into the season, tell me if you feel differently. But I personally feel like this is the year that Alabama State puts it together. There's been some hype around them over the last couple of years since Eddie Robinson Jr. has joined and became the head coach. I wouldn't say it's a you're supposed to win it type of hype. It's a, okay, what are they going to do? And it feels as if they've progressed every step of the way. It feels like they got a little bit better last year than they were the year before. It felt like they actually found some semblance of an offense towards the end of the year at times, right? So you see them start to make steps. And now, as Eddie Robinson Jr. enters year 3, I feel like this is the year that they're supposed to win it all. I hadn't felt this way any other time. So when I say it's the year of the Hornet, when I say this is the year that they're supposed to put it together, this is not a now or never moment. It's not one of those years where it's like, you've been this close every single year. If you don't get it done this year, we won't believe in you anymore. It's not that. It just feels like the stars are aligning. I kind of compare them to FAMU of last year. When Jackson State, who was the SWAC champions, lost their coach and it felt like they had a little bit of turnover, FAMU was the next one up. We weren't sure what Jackson State was going to be. FAMU, we said, all right, this is your year. You are supposed to take it. With Alabama State, now they're occupying FAMU's role, while FAMU is the coach, or excuse me, the champion who lost their coach, and they have a little bit of turnover. And yes, I know, I appreciate all the Rattler Nation for telling me of the amount of players that they held on to, but I do think there's just a question of how is it going to happen, because it's just not a known commodity with Cozy at the helm, right? And we've seen that in the polls, which we'll talk about tomorrow. The slight drop off, very, very slight. I still think there's a lot of respect for FAMU within the SWAC. But anyway, FAMU is the champion who lost their coach, and we're not sure exactly what they're going to be. I feel like Alabama State is meant to step into that role and take the crown. They're not as they don't have as much of a strength as the 2023 FAMU Rattlers did, where it's like, all right, we've been literally one game away. This is clearly our conference. They're still more up in the air, but if you ask me, this is the year of the Hornet. It's been a slow burn, like I said. They've been taking the right steps. And the biggest step that they took, I'll say this. When I say that FAMU's been taking all of the right steps, they've put things together each year. The step that they took in between last season and this season was adding a quarterback. And I've been on this Andrew Body hype train for a while, right? I'm talking since 2021 when I first heard about him. They say, hey, man, we got a solid quarterback at TSU. I'm saying, oh, word, we gonna actually win something now. I'm excited, right? And, that was 2021. I think the fact that it was 3 years ago makes some people feel like, all right, bro, it's never going to happen. He's never going to put it together. I feel like that's the way that people treat him. I feel like the whole tone and the whole mood around Body has shifted. You would think that he's played all of these years. He was a true freshman, played 5 games. In 2022, he played a full season, got hurt in the last game, and then he played 1 game in his junior season. When you really look at how much he's played, I don't think he's disappointed at all. So when I look at Andrew Body, I think he is the thing that could put Alabama State over the edge. I've seen Bama State for the last 2 years under Eddie Robinson Jr., and the thing that they've always missed was consistency on the offensive side of the ball because the defense has been solid. They don't have Bubba Adams no more, but they got Dozier and Cunningham. Both of those made the preseason All-SWAC first team, along with 2 of their other teammates, one on the defensive line, one in the secondary. So that makes impact players at every single level of the defense. And then Eddie Robinson has just shown that he knows how to get the defense together. So I trust this defense to be good in a way that takes pressure off of Andrew Body in the offense. But in the same breath, it puts more pressure on him because I'm now looking at him as the person who can take you over the edge because you are the thing that they haven't had. And if you are the player that I think you are, the player that I saw in 2022, you could be the best dual threat quarterback in the HBCU football. See, that's the type of pressure. And everybody's looking like Bama State, they never had a quarterback. Now that they do, is this going to be the year of the Hornet? I, the mouth of the South, say it is. Some people, the coaches, they say it is. Some people won't. I don't know. But what I will say is that Body will play a pivotal role in whether or not that's what they're going to be. Because if he can run the ball well, if he can pass the ball well, I trust the defense to do what they need to do. And that's going to be a very, very difficult team to stop. That's the way that I'm looking at it. So, yeah, man, I don't want to hear it's been so long. He's not what I think he's going to be. The man's played 1 year. He's played 1 full season in his collegiate career ever. This whole injury prone thing, get that out of here. He had an injury at the end of, I've talked to people, like I know this for a fact. He had an injury at the end of his sophomore year that was not properly dealt with over the offseason. So in the first game of his junior year, it was the only game he was able to play. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I've heard. So I have to put out what I have heard. So yeah, I'm still on this hype train. And at the end of the day, whether it's Dozier, whether it's Cunningham, whether it's Body, they have talent at Alabama State. They now have the one piece they were missing, and that's a quarterback. Not too much pressure, though. Speaking of pressure, Atlanta has a lot of pressure now, too, because they got to show up. People got to show up in Atlanta, really, because that's what's going to make it worth it now that the SWAC tournament is making the move from Birmingham to the ATL. Let's break that down as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and FanDuel is the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. I understand that sports aren't sporting the way they used to, but you see we had Media Day with it. So you already know what that means. That means that football is right around the corner. So go ahead and get down on your futures. And you know what? Whether you're new customers or if you're an old customer, that doesn't matter because FanDuel wants to give a bonus and a benefit to everybody. So all summer long, it's almost the end of summer, but all summer long, all customers will get a daily boost. That's everybody, every day, all summer long. It's only on you. You can go to the WNBA. You can go to the MLB. By the time you're hearing this, the MLB All-Star game will be come and went, but that's okay. They have the season still going. WNBA is going on. The NFL will be back soon. College football will be back soon. There are so many things on the horizon or already going on for you to put your money down on. You just have to go to FanDuel.com. Go to FanDuel.com and make every moment more. Don't miss the daily boost and bonuses all summer long. As we continue rolling on today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day. Every day for your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On Sports Today. It's the first of its kind, 24/7, all day, every day, live sports network on YouTube. Go to Locked On Sports Today and subscribe. Now, I keep forgetting to say this every single episode, but we were speaking about Alabama State. Rest in peace, Jacoby Jones, Louisiana legend, Alabama State, former Alabama State coach. Baltimore Raven, right? So RIP to him. I've been wanting to say that. I had it in my notes, but y'all know my mind, so forgetful. But anyway, speaking about Alabama State, brought that back to my mental. Atlanta is going to be the new home of the SWAC basketball tournament, and I'm here for it, right? Y'all can move SWAC Media Day if you want to, for all I care. The SWAC offices can stay in Birmingham, but me, SWAC Media Day, SWAC tournament, we going to Atlanta. Because at the end of the day, that's just a better venue for the tournament. I'm joking about Media Day, and I'll explain what the difference between Media Day and tournaments are. Not just because one has actual gameplay, but in fans, that's the big part of it all. But at the end of the day, don't nobody want to go to Birmingham, Alabama. With all due respect, I know that's a disrespectful statement, but with as much respect as I can say it with, people are not trying to go to Birmingham, Alabama. I'll go. I got some family in Alabama. I went to the HBCU Legacy Bowl the first year. No, the HBCU Combine the first year that it was in Birmingham. There's nothing wrong with Birmingham at all. It's just a lot of things that go right with Atlanta. It's just a more appetizing city for people who are traveling in. You see it. Look, I remember we brought Candace Cooper on the show. I don't think it was the first time she was on the show. But we brought her on this show, and she talked about her time at the CIAA tournament. And I was in Baltimore, and all of the fun, all of the festivities that were around that tournament. I don't think people are aiming to do that in Birmingham. I don't think they are. Birmingham feels like business. Birmingham feels like I'm going there to handle a job. And I'm sorry if I genuinely am, because my folks got roots in Alabama. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But what I'm saying is, if you take the majority of people, and I don't think many people outside the state of Alabama are taking offense to my statements, but because I love Alabama, I want to make sure that's clear. If you take the majority of people, they're going to want to go to Atlanta more than they're going to want to go to Birmingham. That's facts. That's just the truth of it. Atlanta feels like a party. People want to go to Atlanta without the SWAC tournament. In some ways, Atlanta will be the actual the pulling event. I can't think of what it's called, but as far as the I can't think of what it's called right now. I'm not going to think about it either. But basically, Atlanta is going to be what people are coming for, maybe even more so than the SWAC tournament. Is that a problem? No, because the attendance is the attendance. Nobody cares how the attendance happens as long as it's what it is. And I think that because you're going to have more people around, you're going to have more investment in the events. Because you're going to have more investment in the events, you're going to have better events. You're going to have better games. You're going to have better crowds. Because when I say events, I'm not simply talking about the games. I'm not simply talking about the championship game or the semifinals or the opening round. I'm not simply talking about that. When I'm looking at the SWAC tournament, I think it can be way more, because I look at the CIAA and they are way more. In the city of Alabama, in the city of Baltimore, they're doing so much around that event where you're like, man, this is a week-long party. And I think that Atlanta has the ability to do that because it's Atlanta. Like, come on, what are we talking about here? It's Atlanta, Georgia. And we look at Commissioner McClellan. I think it was in Houston at one point, if I'm not mistaken. And I just think it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work, but I think Houston would have been the best city, to be honest. I think Houston is the best city for this as far as geography. I wish it, I guess it's kind of a little west. It's the most western. But you have Texas Southern there, and it's Houston. Atlanta doesn't have an HBCU in the SWAC that's there. So, they don't have a school in the SWAC. I don't know. But you go both ways. I'm looking at Atlanta. I'm looking at Houston. Houston apparently didn't work once before. I think I've heard people talk about this. And at the end, yeah, we talking about moving it. People have been wanting this tournament to be moved for a while. And Atlanta is a great spot to move it to. It's a great spot to move it to. Let's look at what Commissioner McClellan said. He said, we're going to have all type of events. We're talking about blocking off hotels. It's going to be within walking distance to the arena. We're going to have concerts. We're going to have day parties. We've talked about expanding our tournament and making it a larger event. Well, That's going to start in 2025. That's this year. That's this year, right? We're in 2024, but the basketball season will end in 2025. So the upcoming SWAC tournament will be in ATL. Sheesh. When you're looking at the idea of blocking off hotels, just making it a whole walking event where everybody in the area is here for this event. That's interesting. I don't know if blocking off the hotels is, I don't know the logistics of that. So, I can't speak to it, but what I will say is the premise of having this huge event that surrounds a very important event, smart. It's lucrative. Drives more business. You're going to have people coming into Atlanta. Atlanta's going to be a good base because you're going to have people who are coming in and driving up the tourism. You're going to have people who are coming in and booking hotels. You're going to have people coming in to eat. You're going to have people who want to take a part in that Atlanta culture. So when you're looking at all of those things, to me, this is a no-brainer. To me, this is very easy. Atlanta is just a hotbed. It's a black mecca. Have a black national or a black college tournament, basketball tournament there. It lines up. It just lines up culturally. I understand that Alabama has been the offices and it's kind of like headquarters and whatnot. It's really hard to argue with what Atlanta provides. There's other cities that it could have been, yeah, but it's Atlanta, so get over it. Speaking of great cities and great states, how about Louisiana? What a state, huh? But no, that's not sarcasm. For anybody who don't know me, that is not sarcasm at all. But I said it in a funny way. But what Louisiana means to Mickey Joseph is probably even stronger than what Louisiana means to me. So let's go ahead and break down what this true Louisiana native has to say about his state and also recruiting against the Southern Jaguars. I thought the Grambling head coach made some really strong statements about his connection to Grambling. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day, every day, making it all the way to segment 3. And I thank you 2 times for that. Thank you. Thank you. Let's look at what Louisiana means to Mickey Joseph, the new Grambling State head coach. And he has some really strong quotes about the state and also the city of New Orleans. He has some really strong comments at SWAC Media Day, both on the main stage with Jay and Tiffany, and then also in his individual presser, either before or after. I don't know when he came on, but the new Grambling State head coach took offense, seemingly. I didn't hear the question, but his response sounded like he was responding to somebody talking about his departure from coaching at a Power 5 level. That's what it sounded like, and it sounded like he was offended. He definitely was defensive. And you hear that first line. I would tell those people to mind their business because they don't know what happened. There is in no way that is ever a positive thing. No one has ever said, mind your business because you don't know what happened when they're talking about something good. No one's ever been like, hey, man, I heard you got a new job. Mind your business because you don't know what happened. That's never happened. That is not how that sentence is used. So I didn't need to hear the question to know, and I heard the tone. It's one of those things you don't need to hear the tone. I'm saying it happily, and you can tell that this is a defensive statement. So I didn't hear the question, but deductive reasoning tells me that it was offensive, and it sounds like they were talking about a Power 5 because you pair it with the next one. Now I'm going to read the entire quote without stopping. I would tell those people to mind their business because they don't know what happened. I could have went to another Power 5, but to say I'm using this as a stepping stone, no. Okay, so clearly he's defensive. Clearly he's talking about coaching at a Power 5 level. I put those things together and I say he was asked about his departure from coaching. Okay, cool. This last part is what's important. I could have went to another Power 5. Maybe I don't know what that man's resume is like, but to say, or excuse me, I don't know what his appeal is like at the moment. I don't know. But to say I'm using this as a stepping stone, no. Okay. I think we need to stop using stepping stone in general. There's a lot of words that I see thrown out here. I think they call them buzzwords. I think that's what they say. It's words that started really noble, but I think that the way they've been used afterwards is like it's not really in alignment with the intention. It's not like we start using these words that should be really negative very loosely, and they don't seem as negative anymore, or they remain the same negative connotation and they're applied to people that they shouldn't be. Mickey Joseph, if he were to coach here for 4 years and then go somewhere else, or used as a stepping stone. There are so many jobs. I hate doing this. There are so many jobs that are not somebody's dream job. That does not make it a stepping stone. I guess technically it does make it a stepping stone, but not in the way that people use it. If he decided, I want to coach, let's just use the biggest school in the state, LSU, and we'll bring them back up later. If he decided, hey, my dream job is to coach at LSU, and right now I'm coaching at Grambling, but LSU came calling. Stepping stone? No, it's just not how the things work, guys. It's just, we can't just throw these terms out on everybody. We can't throw these terms out on everybody. But he's still saying, look, I'm not just coming here to boost up my resume. I'm not doing it. And even if he was, I wouldn't really care. I look at coaching as a job, not as a lifestyle. So, like, coaching at Grambling is not your lifestyle. It's your job. People take a job and they go to other jobs. I don't expect you to be a lifer. If you are, that's great. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm alone in this. Maybe I'm the minority. Maybe. Who knows? But to me, this whole idea of it being a stepping stone or not, nah, I'm good. But then here we go. This was the only FCS job I would have taken. When Grambling became open, it was a no-brainer to come back. He loves his state. He's a Louisiana native. He's been around. I do genuinely believe that Grambling was the only one that he would have taken, because we've seen him be an assistant coach at times. We've seen that. I think he could have gotten an assistant coaching job on a Power 5 level. Maybe it wouldn't have been head coaching, but maybe it would have been assistant. And quite frankly, that is another route to make it to a head coach. If we're saying that this guy wants to be a head coach on this level, if that's what we're saying, well, he could have done that by being an assistant at a Nickel State. He could have done that. I'm gonna be an assistant at Nickel State. Well, I think Nickel State is FCS. He could have been. I'm gonna be an assistant at Tulane. Let's just throw that out there, right? I'm gonna do that. And in the larger landscape of college football and the playoffs now, more teams get close to the playoffs, more recognition for the coaches who are on that staff of the teams who get close to the playoffs. He could have done something like that. I'm gonna go coach at Louisiana. He could have done that. I do believe that. And that could have been his way to work it up. But he decided, I want to be a head coach. And he's like, I'm not just going to any FCS program. It's got to be Grambling, because Louisiana means something to him. It means something. And I think that the fact that he said this is the only FCS job he would have taken proves that point. But I'll put this other thing out here. Is Jay Walker talked about recruiting. And he asked him, hey, how do you get them kids from New Orleans to pass up Baton Rouge and come up to Grambling? Because geographically, Baton Rouge is an hour away from New Orleans. I feel like a lot of people may know that, but at the same time, you may not. Like, it's not a thing that everybody just knows where Baton Rouge is in connection to New Orleans. And this was his response, because, you know, that is a big thing. And LSU always said we got to recruit Louisiana, but that's because they're the biggest school in LSU or in Louisiana. Grambling and Southern, right there neck and neck, as far as they're competing for the same type of prospects. So now how do you go get somebody in New Orleans? Because you could just be like, all right, we getting all the North Louisiana kids, they getting all the South Louisiana kids. We're going to go ahead and divide up the state. I'll get a couple from over there, you get a couple from over there, but we're going to dominate this particular area. We're going to focus on dominating this area, which leads to different sides, right? Like, you're not just going to be like, hey, Southern, you take all those kids, I'll take these kids, but you'll probably focus on what's immediate to you. Coach Joseph ain't going for that. Coach Joseph said, Louisiana is my state and New Orleans is my town. Remember what the question was. How do you go tell those kids from New Orleans to pass up Baton Rouge and come to Grambling? He said, Louisiana is my state and New Orleans is my town. Put it on a shirt, bro. Like, what are we talking about here? When we're talking about recruiting wars between in-state opponents, when we're talking about Louisiana, we're talking about Grambling and we're talking about Southern. And Baton Rouge is right there by New Orleans. They logically would be closer to these people that we're talking about recruiting. He said, look, I understand all of that stuff. You're talking about Baton Rouge, an hour away from New Orleans. But at the end of the day, Louisiana is my state and New Orleans is my town. Come on, bro. I love that. I love that quote. I ain't going to lie to you. I absolutely love that quote. Louisiana means a lot to him. Dominating Louisiana as far as recruitment goes means a lot to him. It's emphatic. It's not just about winning the Bayou Classic. It's about winning the recruiting war before the Bayou Classic. When we're talking about what this job means, I'm not just taking any FCS job. I'm taking Grambling, period. Ain't nobody else I'm taking. I'm taking the G. So I think that when you look at what these jobs and what these recruiting wars mean to them, You can sum it up in one sentence. Louisiana is his state, and New Orleans is his town. We'll get into the FAMU Rattlers on tomorrow's episode because they took a very, very slight dip. A very slight dip. And we'll look at it on tomorrow's episode because I'm hearing some talks of snubs. I don't think so. I think they still get a lot of respect. They just weren't number one. That's my opinion. Just a little bit of a teaser on what we'll get into on tomorrow's episode. Remember, we're back to 5 days a week, so keep rocking with me. If you're down to segment 3, I know you always going to keep rocking with me, so thank you for that. In the meantime, in between time, until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.